So I think a really important question to ask yourselves when we're taking up a yoga practice or any type of practice is why we're doing it. So why do you come to yoga? Why do you meditate? Why do you do any practice? So maybe your reasons are, physical, or maybe it's to calm the mind, or maybe it's to gain energy, or maybe it's for many other things. It could be many purposes. And it doesn't really matter if you're coming to your mat, but yoga can fulfill all those intentions. And so even if you're coming with one intention, it's really important to kind of keep yourself open to the experience. So say I want to come to a yoga class and become more flexible. That's a really good reason to come to yoga class. But that's not the only reason I should be coming. And so I might be coming to become more flexible, but I also want to leave myself open to whatever else will happen. And so for me in my practice, I not only want to come for just one intention, I want a multi-layered experience. And yoga can help provide that experience. And so if you think of the definition of yoga, my favorite definition of yoga is integration. And so we're integrating all of these things, our physical experience, our mental experience, our psychological experience, our energetic experience, all together in this one, in this whole, this yoga integration. You can also think of it as union, or to bring together. And so in a way, we're bringing all of our experience together, and where they arrive is right here where we are, in presence. Does that make sense? Good. And so with insight yoga, what we do is draw from various wisdom traditions. So like Buddhism, Taoism, Chinese medicine, psycho-spiritual practices, hatha yoga. And we use all of these things, all of these wisdom practices from all these incredible teachers over the years in order to integrate our experience. Because really what we're trying to do is not transcend our experience, but rather fully embody our experience. And so we always start with the body. And so hatha yoga is a really good place to start. And then maybe traditionally you start to move into more pranayama and then more meditation practices. And so really what we're working with is the whole person, the multi-layered experience of our life. And so really what we're trying to do here is live a fully inhabited life right here, right now, leaving nothing out. And my favorite way to enter into this experience is through meditation. I personally started in meditation before yoga, and so I've always seen yoga as a contemplative practice. And so we always come back, or I always come back, to just sitting on my cushion as simply as possible. And all the other things can enhance and fill in the gaps where meditation can't really get to. And so why don't we start with just a little sit here, a little meditation. I invite you to close your eyes if you'd like to. You can also keep your eyes a little bit open, depending on the tradition of meditation. There's just different things. And what we begin with is just getting a feeling sense of the body. And so feeling the touch points, the sits bones, the legs. You can think of the hips down as being like a mountain, embedded deeply into the earth. And then you can think of the hips up as being very sky-like, broad, open, dynamic, expansive. And so the spine lifts out of the pelvis, and there's a slight lift out of the crown, and then we let the shoulders, the tissues just sort of hang off the spine. Mountain and sky. And then we just begin with the breath, and you might just take a few deep inhales and a few deep exhales. But it's really important here to just free up the breath. And so we relax around the breathing. And so you feel this expansive, open quality, and then a soft release of the breath all the way to the very bottom. And so just in and out. And the most common method of meditation that's known by most people today is mindfulness meditation, very popular. And its roots are very ancient, though it may seem like the way it's marketed as a new thing, a new technique. It's grounded in ancient wisdom and was first taught by the Buddha. And the word that they translate as mindfulness is the word sati, S-A-T-I. And sati can be also translated as to remember. And so what are we remembering? We're remembering where we are, exactly where we are. We are present beings. We can't help it. Our physical body is present. But our mind isn't always present. And so this remembering of where we are, we're drawn back to where the body actually is, where the breath actually is, right here and right now. The mind is very, very powerful. And the body can't really tell the difference between what the eyes see and what the mind sees. And so we think of the future, we think of the past, we think of past things that have happened to us, maybe some traumas, or we think of the future and we dread things in the future. And the body reacts to that as if it's happening right now, which causes stress in the body. And it can even start to create this fight or flight response in the body. And so many of us walk around in this constant state of stress, being stressed out, breathing very shallowly, gripping in the body. But when we remember where we are, there's an automatic settling that happens. When we can breathe deeply, we're sort of sending a message to the nervous system that everything's okay. And when we breathe deeply, we automatically arrive in presence. And so the means by which the Buddha taught mindfulness is through this teaching called the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or the 4 applications of mindfulness. And the first application of mindfulness is bodily sensation. And so as we sit here, we just notice the sensations in the body. And so how does the body feel right here and right now? And a really nice window into the body experience is through what the Buddha called anapanasati. Anapana means in and out. Sati is mindfulness, so mindfulness of the in and out breath. And so we can tighten up the window a little bit and just focus on the breath. And so you feel the in and out breath, which on its face sounds like a boring activity. But the more you practice this, the more interesting it begins to get. And so you feel this in and out, this rise, this fall of the breath. Long breath, short breath, deep or shallow. Expansion, contraction. And this breath leads us directly into the experience of the moment. I like to think of the breath as the tether that ties the mind to the body. And so again, there's this idea of integration, this idea of yoga, this bringing together, this unionizing of our experience right here, right now. Just this. And so what are the sensations that accompany breathing? How does it feel from the inside out to breathe? How do you know you're breathing? And then the second application of mindfulness, or the second foundation of mindfulness, is mindfulness of feeling. And we can stay with the breath through this as well. And so you can think of mindfulness as feeling as the mindfulness of feeling tone. The word used here is Vedana, feeling tone. And there's three options: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So how does it feel to breathe? Sometimes when you're sick, it's not very pleasant to breathe. But the first thing I noticed when I began to be mindful of my breathing was how good it felt to breathe. Or perhaps the feeling is quite mundane and neutral. Don't really get much from it. And so feeling tone can be a little bit confusing, because especially working with the breath, you might think of the breath as expansive. But that's not feeling tone, that's sensation. What does the expansiveness feel like? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Or is it neutral? And so noticing the feeling. And then the third window, the third foundation, the third application of mindfulness is mindfulness of the mind. And so mindfulness of the mind in a conceptual way and a non-conceptual way. And so you notice the movements of the mind, you notice the thoughts of the mind. But what happens in between the thoughts? Or sometimes I like to think of what's happening behind the thoughts. What knows you're thinking? And so you watch the weather patterns of the mind, the movement. Can we observe the field of consciousness itself rather than being locked around one thought or a series of thoughts, or getting caught up in this string of thinking? Can we just be aware of the process and then be aware of the space? So the consciousness, the backdrop, knowing. And then the fourth application, the fourth foundation. It's called mindfulness of dharmas. And the way I like to think of it, in a nice window into this, is it can get fairly complicated, is mindfulness of phenomena, or mindfulness of the environment, or mindfulness of the present moment. And so, what's happening now? We hear the noise of the HVAC system. You hear the ambient tones in the background. You feel the air moving, maybe cool, maybe not. We feel the place where the skin meets the environment, where the surface meets the environment. Notice where we are, the space around. And in this space around, what moves? And so I encourage you as we move throughout the rest of this class to use these foundations, use these applications. As we take postures, how does it feel? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? What are the bodily sensations that you're feeling, energetic and physical? What is happening in the environment? How is the breath? And so we keep this constant monitoring or this constant registry of what's happening here and now. And so let's just take a nice big inhale through the nose. And a soft, gentle exhale out of the mouth. And again, big inhale through the nose, just filling up. And a nice long exhale again, but open your eyes a little bit at a time. And not so much looking out, but more so allowing in, allowing light, allowing vision in. So we're receiving. And so we move into the yin practice, this very receptive practice. And so receiving vision right now. And then let's just bring our feet out. Bring the soles of feet together. And we want a good distance between the pelvis and the heels. I like to sit up. I like to elevate a little bit just to get the sit bones off the ground a bit. And so my pelvis is neutral or even a little bit tilted forward. And you might start with just kind of settling in, and maybe lift the spine. Yeah, take a big inhale. And on an exhale, just kind of come out, over, and then down. You can bring the palms down. And I'm always a big fan of lots of movement before a posture, so you might just kind of rock a little bit side to side. Gradually making your way down, you could put the elbows on the legs or the ankles. You could bring the arms all the way down. You could let the head hang, but I encourage you not to let the head hang the whole time. At some point, you might just lift the head. It doesn't take much effort. You could also put a block underneath the head or a block underneath or a bolster underneath the belly. If you need anything, just let me know and I'll come and get you. Also, if the knees are quite lifted off the ground and that's uncomfortable for you, it can be very nice to put blocks or bolsters underneath the knees. And upon entering a yin pose, you might just take a big inhale and a long exhale. Settling in. And just come back to observe the breath. Really all the foundations, but I like to start with the breath always. You might notice as you breathe that there's 4 different beats to the breath you could think of. And so the inhale happens. And then at the very top of the inhale, right before the exhale, there's a little pause before the exhale begins. And at the very bottom of the exhale, there's a little pause before the inhale begins. Yeah, so these 4 beats. And sometimes I even like to experiment with the pauses themselves, maybe extending the pauses. Maybe not. And so yin practice is a really nice practice to get deeper into the body, to nourish the tissues of the body. And so in yang practice, we use rhythm and force to kind of bring strength and stability to the muscles. And the muscles respond really well to force and rhythm. And But the deeper tissues of the body, the connective tissues, the joints, the fascial planes, they don't respond well to force like that or rhythm. But they do respond well to sustained tension over time. And so we load these areas, the target area of the body. And so that over time, over the span of the pose, they gradually start to unravel a bit. And so when you come into a yin posture, the first thing we do is just find an appropriate edge. And so you might find your edge, but we don't necessarily want to stay there. You pull back a little bit. Because if you're feeling something, you're doing something. Even the shape itself, the nature of the shape itself, there's going to be things happening. The next thing you do after you find that appropriate edge is you soften the muscles. You soften the muscles. And you watch the muscles, because the tension will start to creep in or try to creep in at various moments. So again, we monitor, we register, and we respond appropriately. And then we hold for time. Pretty simple. And so very gently here, you can begin to come out of this. If you want to stay longer, please do. And you just come up like inhale like you're inflating a balloon. You just come up. And if you're up on something, you can just come off the front of it and just extend the legs out. Yeah? Bring the hands behind and just lean back on the hands and let the legs go. And just feel the rebound of the posture. Feel the result. Often like to think of noticing the evidence of the posture you just did. So how does it feel? Energetic movement, physical rearranging, thought, sensation, emotion, memory. Could be anything. We just open up the space and watch what moves. Good. And let's just walk the feet in. Yeah, and just bring the feet wide and just drop the knees from side to side. Just a little bit movement here, just to create some space. And then when you're ready, you might bring the legs out in front of you, roll over the shins, and we're going to come all the way down to the belly. And we'll take Sphinx posture. You don't have to roll over the shins. You might bring the legs out to the side. The Sphinx posture, you just bring the elbows underneath the shoulders. Ground through the elbows a bit so you lift the chest slightly. It's not aggressive, just a little lift, a little broadening of the upper chest. Yeah. And you might experiment with the distance between the feet as well. So maybe the feet are a little bit wider, a little bit closer. Come into the breathing. And because the front ribs, the thoracic space is so open here, we can emphasize the inhale a bit more. It's nice to do that. So you feel the expansion of the front ribs and the diaphragm gets a nice stretch. But again, exhales complete all the way to the bottom. So we begin to get some compression along the lumbar spine. But also, we're getting some length on the front of the spine, so the longitudinal ligaments that run up and down the front of the spine and the back of the spine. But the front of the spine here is getting a nice little stretch. Let the face relax, let the eyes relax, let the tongue be heavy, let the crown lift slightly. And if this becomes too much for the lower back, you can always walk the elbows a little bit more forward. And if you want a little bit more, you can lift the heels above the knees. Or you could come into seal posture. Many of you know what that is, but you could just bring the palms flat and straighten the arms. Now, it's not a requirement. It's not some place we're trying to get to. It's just something, sometimes some people need a little bit more. Maybe you try it and it's not working and you come back down. That's good too. One of the really amazing benefits of the yin practice, really any yoga, but especially the yin practice, the way we do it, is the energetic benefit. And so in the Chinese system and in the yogic systems, we have this vital energy that runs through the body, but not just that runs through the body, but runs through the entire universe. Chinese call it qi, yogis call it prana. And it's not only an energy in us and the universe, but it's the animating force behind all life. You can think of it as the organizing principle behind life. Again, the animating force. And in the physical body, our physical bodies, that energy runs through the body in these rivers or these channels called meridians. In the Chinese system, in the yogic system, it's called the nadis. Energy really runs through the entire body. Again, it's the animating force of the body, but it's concentrated in these rivers of energy that run through the body. And in the Chinese system, these rivers of energy aren't just physical things or energetic, but also sort of dictate and govern our mind, our emotions, every aspect of our experience. And so when we sequence a yin posture or a yin class around particular meridians, what we're doing is pulling on these deeper tissues that the meridians run through and removing or expanding any obstructions that we find there, or that are found there. And so this consistent movement of energy is what we're after in the body. And come all the way down when you're ready, and just find a nice neutral spot. In this very short sequence that we're doing here, we're concentrating mostly on the kidney and the urinary bladder meridians. Kidney meridian runs from the little toe that comes across the foot and up the inner leg, and then enters the body at the tailbone and runs up the lumbar a bit, and then goes through the kidney and the urinary bladder, and then comes out and moves up the front body. And so we do that Sphinx pose, and we're getting some stretch along the front of the body. We're compressing the lumbar spine, getting some activation there. And when we do these postures, we're actually cutting off energetic and fluid flow to these particular places, so that when the pose is released, these places become nourished from the healing response of the body. And so this yang energy runs to these places, removing obstructions. At least that's the goal. Yeah. And so again, the meridians run through the deeper tissues of the body. This postulates modern meridian theory, through the fascial planes of the body. And these fascial planes can get tight, restricted, and dry out. And so yin, these long stretches, begin to hydrate these tissues, begin to open them up, expand them, so the energy becomes more consistent. So let's just press back here to all fours and just let's move through some cows, move through some cats, just move through the spine. And so we feel the nourishment and the stillness, and then we move the energy along through just a little bit of movement. Even a downward dog could be nice, just whatever feels nice, just moving things along. Eventually, where we're going to arrive is on a seat again. We'll just come to a seat. And again, you might lift up a bit. I'll give you some options here. First option is what we call dragonfly pose. So again, we find the edge, and then we move it in a bit. The other option is to do one side at a time if you don't like bringing both legs out that. And so, but you still kind of come down. And I'll let you know when we're about halfway through. Another thing you do is just lift the knees, and you can put some blocks underneath the knees or some kind of cushion. And still another option you can do is come into butterfly, but bring the heels in a little tighter, so you start to feel a little pull in the inner legs. And entering just like we enter all those forward folds. Maybe find a little lift, and you come out, over and down, some movement, just kind of move it around, expand and feel. Because we're targeting the inner legs, sometimes the hamstrings can get in the way, so that's why we would lift the knees, so that'll release the hamstrings. And so every meridian that's related to an organ has a complementary meridian. And so the kidney meridian is the yin meridian. So it comes up, moves up the body. And then its complementary meridian is the urinary bladder meridian. It starts at the inner eyes and comes up the head and into the brain and then down the back body. So we're getting into the kidney meridian and the urinary bladder meridian here if we're forward folding. The urinary bladder meridian is the longest one in the body. It has something like 67 acupoints. Yeah. And these two meridians are really important. They're the ones that we start with. They sort of feed all the other organs, all the other meridians. You can think of them as like storehouses of energy. In the kidney, there's the essence energy called Jing is in the body, is in the kidney, is stored in the kidneys. And so we work with the kidneys first. Yeah. When the kidney energy is out of balance, there's usually a sense of fear or dread. And so like I said, the Chinese masters, the ancient masters, figured this out a very long time ago. That all aspects of our experience are interwoven, intertwined, and work together. And it makes sense. When your breath is really relaxed and you're lying on the ground and your body's very open and soft, it's really difficult to be angry. When your body's tense and your jaw is tight and you're breathing really shallowly, it's really hard to feel peaceful. And so this understanding of the integration of all of our experience is something that we're trying to understand a bit deeper in these practices. How do they go together? What are the cross sections? And it becomes a really very, very, very skillful way to practice. One day I feel like this, and so I might start to direct my practice towards dealing with that. And so if I'm feeling a lot of fear or dread, I might do some kidney poses. I might do some loving kindness practice. And so we can, through skillful means, start to respond appropriately to what arises. And so that's the major benefit of practicing in this way. So we can come at these things from many different directions. Yeah, skillful means. A few more breaths here. Can you relax a little bit deeper? Good. Come out here. You might just help your legs in. Sometimes I'll bring the hands to the insides of the knees and lift. And just lean back. Bring the heels in and just drop the knees from side to side. Good. And let's come around to all fours now. Or again, and move through some cows and cats. And be maybe a little bit more organic about it. So you move the hips in circles. You might drop the heart a little closer to the ground and snake through the spine. Just feel. So moving into some yang practice now. And then let's tuck the toes and just start to lift the hips up towards a downward facing dog. And just drop the heels one by one. Intention here just to open up the backs of the legs. But also notice as you drop the heels that there's this natural swing in the hips. And so we can exaggerate that swing. So press the hips from side to side. Get into the side body. Open the ribs. That space between the pelvis and the ribs, that soft spot, and getting in there. And then let's just walk the feet up towards the front of the mat. Slightly bend into the knees, hug the inner legs in. And let's just roll up the spine. Engage the belly and just roll up the spine. Bring the arms nice and wide, come up to the tippy toes. Reach, get really long. And then drop the heels. Bring the palms together in front of the heart space. And just breathe here. And remember the meditation instruction of the whole lower half of the body rooting into the earth, that mountain quality. And then the upper body is the sky, that lifted quality. And let's bring the arms to the side and lengthen the fingertips towards the ground. And notice when you lengthen the fingertips towards the ground, you can lift the chest more. So from the belly, the chest lifts, the crown lifts. And then on an inhale, let's turn the palms out. Bring the arms nice and wide. So using the full range of the shoulders, reach up, maybe look up, palms together. And then exhale, turn the palms out, bring the arms to the side, but keep the chest lifted. So belly lifted. Yeah. Again, inhale, turn the palms out wide, reaching, lifting. And then palms out, arms to the side. Good. Again, inhale, breathing, filling up. Vital energy filling up. And then exhale. Good. One last time. Inhale, arms wide, reach. Palms together. This time turn the palms out, bend into the knees, and then dive out, over, and then down. Fingertips or palms release to the ground, release the head. And then inhale, just flat back. And then step back with your right foot. Let's lower the knee. Hug the groin. Press this back foot down. Yeah, let's bring the hands up to the knee or the thigh. You could also use blocks if you'd like to. Once again, mountain in the low body, sky in the upper body. Yeah. Press the back foot down again and hug into center. And then think of the tailbone kind of coming forward towards the left heel. Lift the belly, lift the side body without those low ribs coming out. Yeah. From here, let's bring the arms wide, just like we did before. Wide, palms out, lift it up. Be dynamic with the hands. So maybe you spread the fingers wide and sort of turn the pinkies in. Yeah. Sorry, keep your arms lifted. So keep the fingers lifted. Wide. Feel that lift up. Good. Biggest inhale. And then exhale, bring the hands forward all the way down to the ground. Tuck the back toes, lift the knee. And then send this left foot back to downward facing dog. Good. So fan the fingers out and then push the ground away from you. And then we can hug the arms in towards the head more. Yeah? And think of getting very long in the torso. So the rib cage starts to spread. Lift the sits bones high. And if you have to, just keep a little bend into the knees, especially if your hamstrings are very tight. Yeah, so we don't put too much pressure on the low back. Nice. And then on an inhale, let's come out to a plank. Shoulders come out over the wrists. Yeah. And then exhale, send the hips back up to downward facing dog. Just moving with the breath a few times. Moving from the belly, inhale, come out to plank. And then exhale, send the hips back up slowly. Good. One more time. Inhale, come out to plank. And then exhale, lower the knees down, and slowly lower the chest all the way down to the ground. Good. And then inhale, come forward into a low cobra. Let's pause there. So lengthen the toes towards the wall behind you and press the feet down so the quadriceps lift. And then think of the tailbone drawing towards the heels and the belly comes forward. Shoulder blades come down the back, but not in towards each other, into the back of the ribs. And then really open the front of the chest. Engage the elbows in towards the rib cage. Nice. So it's like the whole lower half of the body is moving one direction, the upper half of the body is moving the other. Good. Big inhale. And then press back to the knees, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Good. Breathe. Nice. Lift the right leg way up towards the sky. Exhale, draw the knee towards the nose, place the foot between the hands, lower the back knee. Flatten the foot, hug in, and then bring the hands to the knee or the thigh, lift. It's like you're pushing the knee away. Shoulders tend to want to draw up. See if you can draw them down, and then broaden here. Hug it in. And then bring the arms nice and wide, lift up. Good. Fingers wide, so dynamic here. And just like I said before, kind of think of the pinkies coming in a bit. So the shoulders plug in, and you can lift the collarbones a bit more. Yeah, very nice. Good. All right. Tailbone towards that right heel. Nice. Good. Big inhale. Exhale, bring the hands forward all the way down to the ground. Tuck the back toes, lift the knees, send the foot back again. Nice. Get those hips up. Let's inhale, come out to plank. Exhale, send the hips back up. Good. Inhale to plank. Exhale, the hips back up. Good. Inhale, come out to plank. And then lower the knees, lower the chest all the way down. Good. And then inhale, come forward into your cobra. Let's pause there. Pause there. The shoulders away from the ears and blades into the back. Good. Nice. And now without lowering the shoulders, let's float the legs and hug the inner legs in. Use your belly to lengthen forward. And again, a little hug of the inner legs. Doesn't mean the legs get closer, just engaging them in. Good. And then let's inhale, bring the legs nice and wide. Exhale, bring them in. Good. Inhale, wide. And then exhale them in. Let's lower the legs, lower the head. Good. Press back to the knees. Tuck the toes. Downward facing dog. Good. Breathe. Nice. Let's walk the feet forward towards the hands to the very top of the mat. Inhale, look up, flat back. And then fold on the exhale, crown to the ground. And then inhale, the arms nice and wide, come all the way up. Lift and reach, come up to the tiptoes, the forefoot, reach, 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 reach. And then lower the heels, palms together, hands in front of the heart. Pause. Feel through the body. Good. Now on an inhale, let's sit down into a chair and then sweep the arms up. Utkatasana. Feel free to keep the feet a little bit separate if it's difficult to keep the feet together. Yeah. And then play with the shins, maybe draw them back and then forward a little bit. And then what we want to create is this neutral relationship between the pelvis and the spine, but don't be afraid to extend the spine a lot. Yeah? And so you can think of the tailbone or the pelvic floor moving towards the back of the mat, or like 3/4 of the way back of the mat. And then you lift the belly out of the hips. Yeah? Just like Anjaneyasana, the pinkies kind of come in a bit, or you can think of squeezing something between the hands. Lift the collarbones more. Good. Big inhale. And let's exhale, dive it forward. Inhale, flat back. And let's step back to plank pose. This time lower down knees and chest like before, or chaturanga. Chaturanga is like a half push-up to the elbows. And then inhale, come forward into your back bend, upward dog or cobra. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe. Good. So finding some stability here, push the ground away. You can think of the hands and the feet as magnets drawing into the earth or drawing towards the center of the earth. And then you're pulling away from those magnets. Yeah? So lengthening here. Yeah. Good. Let's inhale the right leg way up towards the sky. And then bend the knee, drop it over to the left to open up those hips to the right. Yeah. And just sort of move the knee around in circles, like you're drawing circles in the sky. Let's inhale, lengthen back up through center. Draw the knee towards the nose and then place the foot between the hands. Good. Drop the back heel in so you're flat in the foot, almost like it's parallel with the back of the mat, but angled in a bit. Hug the inner legs in. And then bring the arms nice and wide. Come all the way up. Warrior one. Good. So push into your back foot. Hug the inner legs. Good. Now, think of squaring towards the front of your mat and the hips. And what you can do is let go of the left glute and imagine that left glute wrapping around the side of the body towards the front. Yeah. And then lift out of the hips. Good. Yeah. Yeah, pinkies in. Reach. Lengthen side body, but again, don't push those lower ribs out. Good. And then think of the hip points lifting and then open. Shoulders down the back. Breathe. Big inhale. On the exhale, let's open up into warrior two. Yeah, warrior two. Yeah. So right knee comes forward, sort of tracking over the middle of the foot. Still push it into the back foot. And try to keep the weight in the right heel rather than the forefoot. But the femur is still coming forward. Yeah. So the shin and the femur meet at the knee, stabilizing at the knee. But then also see if you can sort of squeeze the feet in towards each other. Notice that'll bring some opening to the pelvis and the inner legs. And then lift the belly. Yeah. Expand front body and back body at the same time. So very broad here. Soften the jaw. Feel through the body. Feel the space around the body. Biggest inhale. Exhale, let's cartwheel forward, frame the front foot, and then send it back, downward facing dog. Very nice. Breathe. Breathe. Let's inhale, come out to plank. Exhale, float down, your choice in the push-up. And inhale, bring it forward, press those feet down, reach the toes back. And then downward facing dog. Take a big inhale. And a long exhale. Good. Let's lift the left leg up on an inhale. Bend at the knee, drop it over. And we're still in downward dog, so keep pushing the ground away. We just have a lifted leg. That's it. Yeah, and then just move the knee around in circles. Drawing circles in the sky. Good. Inhale, lengthen back up through center. And we'll bring the knee towards the nose, place the foot between the hands. Drop the back heel in, hug. So we set up this really solid foundation, and then bring the arms real wide, come all the way up. Square the hips again towards the front of the mat. So we're hugging the inner legs. Good. Active in those arms, hands. Good. And then we lengthen side body. Shoulders down the back. Yeah. Good. Breathe. Soft jaw. And again, square those hips forward. So that right glute comes around the outside. Yeah. Big inhale. And then we'll exhale, open up into the warrior two. Good. Something nice you can do here in the warrior two, if you're, just so you can see how much control you have, you can straighten the leg, and then notice when you straighten the leg, you can kind of turn the hip, and the knee moves with it. And you can stop where the knee is like centered over the foot, and then lunge back into it. You might be able to see your toe on the outside of the knee. This hip might drop in a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. We're all shaped a little bit differently. Yeah. Good. You can think of this outer left thigh dropping as inner left thigh lifted. And once again, there's a squeeze in of the feet. Broaden. Biggest inhale. Exhale, cartwheel forward, frame the foot, and then send the foot back, downward dog. Pause here, breathe. Yeah. Cool. Inhale, come out to plank. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, bring it forward, lift. And then downward facing dog. Great. Let's drop down to the knees and just take a child's pose here. Arms can be extended out or alongside the body. Good. Feel the expansion of the back body here. Spine moving, back ribs expand. Notice the body here, the movement of energy. short little practice. It draws up lots of energy. Doesn't take much. Can the heart melt a little bit more? Can the belly release a bit more? And then let's just make our way to our back here. Feel free to grab a blanket and cover yourself up if you'd like to. I know it's might be a little bit chilly for you. Even putting something underneath the legs can be nice too. So if you want something, let me know and I'll get it for you. Spread out and draw the shoulder blades kind of underneath the body. Feel up and down the body and just relax everything here. In order to relax, it's sort of required that we relax our thinking mind. It would be impossible to think of every little part of the body and think it into relaxation. But notice how you can feel the whole body at one time. How you can relax the whole body at once. And so what we're doing is experiencing directly. And so we prioritize sensation and feeling and decentralize our thinking mind and sort of put it on the outside. In fact, in many Asian cultures, they talk about thinking as another sense experience. And so like smell or touch or taste or hearing, there's thinking. And so we never think that we are our smell, our smelling, or our hearing, or our tasting. But we often associate thinking with being us. But that's not the case. And so relax, experience the body directly. Just here, just this. And what's really nice to do in times like this where we're relaxed and the thinking slows or is deprioritized is to sort of insert positive things, positive intentions, so that we are infused with these things. Yeah? Our body becomes infused with positive aspiration, with intention. Again, there's this integration, there's this bringing together of our experience into one intention. And one of the brilliant ways that one of the brilliant things that the Buddha taught was this idea of metta. Metta is the Pali word. Pali is an ancient Indian language, and the Sanskrit word is Mayatri. It's another ancient language of yoga and Buddhism. And the Buddha there were two different times where the Buddha said that this practice leads to complete awakening. One of those was in the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the mindfulness Sutta, the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, and the other one is in the Metta Sutta. And sometimes the Metta Sutta is forgotten in that respect, where it is in and of itself a way to awaken completely. And the reason is that it builds this capacity of the heart. The Buddha described this in a really skillful way. He talked about if you take a salt crystal and you put it in a cup of water, that the water becomes very, very salty, undrinkable. But if you take that same salt crystal and you put it into a rushing river like the river Ganges, you won't even taste it. And so what we're doing when we do metta is we're expanding the capacity of the heart. When we expand the capacity of the heart, we can hold more. And so every little thought that comes up, we don't contract around and make our whole life about it. Or every little emotion that comes up, it doesn't ruin our day. We see things for what they are in this greater capacity, and from that we can act skillfully or just allow those things to sort of melt away or float away. And so a really good way of doing that is through the metta practice. And we'll do a little bit of that here. Basically, you use phrases. You think of yourself or other people, and you use these phrases that kind of insert these ideas, these feelings very deeply. And it's less about the words. It's more about the emotion or the feeling behind the words, the sincerity behind the words, really. And so the way I always like to start is it might be different than you've heard it before, but I like to start with what they call the benefactor. And so you think of somebody in your life that exudes loving kindness, which is what metta means. I think I forgot to mention that. Metta means loving kindness. And so you think of somebody who completely embodies, like you think of this person, it may bring a smile to your face. They're pure. It may be somebody you don't even know. It may even be an animal that you really like. It can be anything. You just see this being and your heart just grows. And then when you see this being and your heart grows, really share in this, with the knowledge that you both have the same essence. Yeah. So you feel their joy infuse your being. And as if they're sitting right in front of you, you look at them and you say, "May you be well." You can say this to yourself. May you be well. And when you say this, that you see their reaction, like a thank you, a gratitude. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you feel connected. May you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. You see them receive this again, and they react in a grateful, very grateful way. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you feel connected. May you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. We want to feel it, intend it strongly, sincerely. And then in your mind, you can bow to this person, or person or being, thank them for their contribution to your life. Feel that joy that they've brought you. And then just allow them to walk away, knowing that they're always there available for you. And then maybe another person comes and sits in front of you, and this person is you. You can sit right in front of yourself. Look yourself in the eye. And first notice what that feels like. And then with all sincerity, just like this benefactor, those same feelings that this benefactor brought up in you, can you conjure those up and send them to yourself? Notice any resistance there is, and do it anyway. Send this to them, to you. And from the deepest place of your own goodness, your own peace, your own deepest love, say, may I be well. May I be at peace. May I feel connected. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. With all sincerity, from this place of infinite goodness, may I be well. May I be at peace. May I feel connected. May I be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. And then perhaps you get up in front of yourself and walk away, knowing that you're available to do this for yourself at any point, at any time. And typically in loving kindness practice and metta practice, there's a few other steps. But for now, we'll just move to the very last step, which is one of my favorites. And we just wish loving kindness and metta from the depth of our own being to all beings. To all beings. You might think of all the animals and people that may have been left out in the cold. People suffering, injustice. It's all beings, even the difficult ones. Even the ones that run countries. And because we all share the same essence, the same nature, we know it's possible for all these people to realize their own nature. And they all really, truly want to be happy, want to be at peace. Though their methods for doing so may be really confusing, we can relate to their longing for happiness. And so holding all of this, we can say, may we be well. May we be at peace. May we feel connected. May we be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Holding all beings, including yourself. May we be well. May we be at peace. May we feel connected. May we be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. just let that marinate for a moment. The deepest intentions of peace, well-being, and harmony, happiness. When you're ready, you can begin to move here through fingers and toes and jaw and eyes and face. Stretch and feel. Walk your feet in and bring the knees into the chest and give a nice big hug. And then just drop over to your right or left or whatever direction and press yourself up to a seat. I'll invite you to bring your palms together if you'd like to. And again, once again, just feel through your body, here, now. And with deepest gratitude, I thank each of you for your practice, for showing up for this, for helping me out. And I thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to lead you in your practice today. Have a really, really great remainder of your weekend, and may all sentient beings enjoy happiness, peace, joy, and safety, and be free from suffering and the causes and conditions of suffering. Namaste.